In the last episode, I showed you guys my approach to landfall in the Marquesas, and now that I have arrived and spent a couple days of blissful lying around and eating fruit, it's time to do the long list of projects that is built up on my boat. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right into the biggest, baddest problem, which is my topping lift. Today I'm using my topping lift because it has broken twice on the passage, so I have my new line, and then since I don't have a thimble to put into the splice at the top, and I don't want to have rope on metal because of chafe, especially since it's at the top of the mast, I'm going to sort of jury rig. I'm going to tie a bowline around this block and then attach this block to the top of the mast so that it's metal on metal for the chafe point, and the rope just slides really nicely on this and it kind of acts like a ghetto thimble. And then it'll attach to the bottom of the boom. I'll just put a shackle and tie it off at different heights every time I adjust it because I don't have hardware for the bottom, but it will work. And here's my bosun's chair, and it's not super hot today, so it's a good day to go aloft, and it's not super rolly. And now it's time to get started. Tie your knots when you're going aloft because a knot is way more guaranteed to hold than this thingy. And I have in my pocket extra shackle things, and I'm going to make this off to the bosun's chair so that when I climb up it trails behind me, and I think we are good to go. Okay, so the audio on this got messed up, so I'm just going to do a total voiceover. You can pretend it's a fancy foreign film, but basically I'm at the top of the mast in this bay. It is really rolly. I'm squeezing the mast with my legs to keep myself from moving, but this is where I'm making the connection. You can see the old topping lift is on the thin wire connecting up to the masthead sheave. So first I have to take the weight off the boom and get that topping lift wire off, and then put the new one on. Pretty simple, and what a view from up here. I've only been in the Marquesas a couple days, and check it out. Just gorgeous mountains all around. This is one of the biggest bays in the Marquesas, so it's got a ton of boats in it, but the other ones are smaller. Down below you can see Yarna, who is being my winch monkey and also helping me with the boom. Okay, topping lift is on. I'm going to do 2 shackles together, and then this guy spins, and the bowline is happy, and it's really rolly, sorry for the not great camera work. Goes down to the main pool in the school. And really excited to get down from here because it's super hard to hold on and my legs are pinched like nobody's business. So right when I got in, the top car for my mainsail came off from the sail, but luckily I have a bunch of spare webbing and I'm gonna sew it back on right now so that I can go for a sail tomorrow and use my mainsail. Okay, tools that I have: webbing to sew back on, sail needle, sail thread, screwdriver to get the slide thing open on the mast, left-handed palm that I'm going to use on my right hand, and of course scissors. So I'm going to go up to the mast and get started. It's really weird because I made it in perfectly with this sail, and then when I was putting the sail cover on, it just parted, so I guess it was just hanging on until the very end. So thanks, mainsail. And I think the slug is, buried in here. Oh, it looks like it got jammed. That's why it came off. I'm gonna have to unjam it. But the first thing that I have to do is go down to here, undo these screws, and take this plate off, and then I can take these guys out of here and get this one out because it's easier to sew it on when it's not in the mast. Okay, so I've taken this side off, and I actually unscrewed the head of the screw off the threads because it's so rusted. So I'm going to get some vice grips and try to pull this out and see if I have a replacement. Now, I'm just going to pull these guys out so I can get to this side, which actually somehow got jammed. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Oh, shit. It's really hard to do this with one hand. Okay, here's this. and it looks like it's symmetrical. So we're gonna come over here. This is just gonna get sewn onto this. Luckily I had one spare piece of webbing because I re-sewed all of these 2 years ago. And this one's just chafed through, so I'm gonna cut it off and then re-sew this one back on. All right, so the way you wanna do it, you can see on this one, it's looped through, and then I sewed it to keep the loop in, and then sewed each end of the sail. This one attaches a little bit differently, so I'm gonna have to make it offset, and so the loop is gonna go through like this. I'll sew it here, and then I'll just sew it to itself on this side. So the first thing I'm doing is measuring to see how many loops I want it, which I think like this is good. And then I'm gonna sew this while it's off the sail because it's easier. And who says that left-hand palms aren't for righties? Okay, so I just tie a little knot in the end of the thread, and then a nice way to do this, actually I probably don't even need the palm. You just kind of go, oh yeah, I do need the palm because my needle's rusty. On this side, and then go through again. It's really easy, and then just go around the other side to the center. And you're basically just making loops on either side. Like that. Loop here, loop here. I think if you get too close it gets blue. And then I'm just gonna do that a bunch of times on each side. Look at what I did here. Yeah, I think I did it, well this was thicker thread, I did it 3 times on each side, so maybe I'll do it 4 or 5 on each side with the thinner stuff, and then it'll be ready to put it onto the head of the sail. So for the last one, it's important to let the thread fall out of your needle and rethread it. Just I go through a little bit of this thingy too, and the threads, and then give it a couple of wraps and push it through. And that ties a nice little knot. And we have the first bit is done. Okay, so now this goes through like this, and I'm gonna sew this together. This is a tricky one. The other ones I just sewed right through the sail, but I think this I'm gonna have to sew onto itself, like this. And then it's Hippie. Okay, so we're done. Here, everything is sewn back together. So now I'm just gonna put all of these back in the track, put the metal piece back on, and call it a day. So I forgot that the screw is actually stuck in the track here. The head sheared off and I'm not able to get it out with a screwdriver. So I'm going to try to use these vice grip onto it and see if I can twist it this way. So right now I'm just adjusting the vice grip so that they grip as tightly onto the screw as possible, and seeing if I can turn, which it's just turning the vice grips. So I'm going to try it from this angle, see if maybe I can get it this way. If it's really rusted in, especially when it's two unlike metals, it's hard because they tend to have funny interactions with each other. This is super tricky. Maybe it's time for the PB blaster. Yeah, this thing is not turning. I'm gonna use my favorite condiment, PB blaster. I let it sit for a while and we have success. The screw is turning, and I think I'm going to be able to get it out of the track and then replace it with a fresh screw that will be able to be used by a screwdriver. Okay, now it's time to put all of these guys back in. I put half of this track stopper on and then put the slugs into it, and then put the other half on to trap them in. Just checking that it fits in with the new screws I'm using, which are a little bit shorter, but I think it's going to be okay. So we just start with the top guy and slide them all in. The more of these you get in, the harder it gets to slide them in because they start to pile up and then try to all push out of the bottom because gravity. So this is always my least favorite part of fixing a sail, but it's also the last part, so that makes it better. And that's pretty much it. Sail fixed, everyone's happy, and I got to sail around the corner to Daniels Bay. One of the big draws of Daniels is not just its beauty, but that it has fresh drinking water available for free, which the bay that I'm in currently doesn't even have it for not free. So that is the end of this episode. Next week, or in 2 weeks, I'll show you guys what it looks like to take your dinghy into a tidal river between palm trees to get drinking water from a tap that comes from a waterfall. It was the first Pacific experience I had where I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely in the Pacific. This is cool now. So thank you guys for watching this week's video. I put out new videos every 2 weeks on Mondays, so try to make your Mondays a little bit happier. Thank you to Tish for putting these videos online for me. I'm currently in French Polynesia, putting these on micro SD cards and mailing them to the States so they can be uploaded from there, because that's how slow the internet here is. If you guys want to see where I am currently in time and see some cool pictures of French Polynesia, check out my Instagram at BoatLizard. Thank you so much to all of my patrons for making this possible for me. If you'd like to become a patron, my Patreon is patreon.com/windhippie. Thank you for all your lovely comments. I love reading what you guys have to say. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Patrons, I'll see you next week with a snack.